let us all do we can to build a better future. So, I keep saying this. Our federal government is run by incompetent individuals. We have individuals who have no business in politics, who has no business being the gatekeepers and protecting us, because the federal government spotted big problems with the SVB crash, and that is the Silicon Valley Bank crash. Mind you, not only did the Silicon Valley Bank crash during this month, but so did two other banks. Again, we've talked about this, that there's going to be an economic collapse. And when it happens, millions upon millions of Americans are going to be affected by this. So many Americans are going to lose their jobs, lose their homes, unable to pay rent for their apartments. And again, as inflation keeps on rising, so many Americans will be unable to really feed themselves, pay the bills, pay for their costs for medicine, pay for gas for their car. It's all intertwined. And we have been warning about this since Hardlens Media first started off on the streets of Chicago, going into radio, television, and here onto the internet as well. We've been warning that this is going to happen. And our government purposely let this happen. They could have done something. If you don't believe me, here, check this out. I got something for all of you to check out. Shout out again to Case Study QB, wrongly being censored. The federal government spotted big problems with the Silicon Valley Bank crash and did nothing. They could have done something, but they didn't.
I was fascinated by your reporting over the weekend about how many times the Fed, the San Francisco Federal Reserve, which has purview over SVB, warned them, 6 citations over the last year, that they had, quote, matters requiring attention. And the SEC knew that there was no interest rate hedge. So why did nothing happen?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question. And I think kind of the key question in this episode is, the Fed had started giving this bank warnings years earlier. It had given them a range of warnings over the year before its crash. And a lot of those warnings were specifically about the problems that we saw really bring down Silicon Valley Bank. They were telling the bank's executives that their risk management controls were inadequate, that they were exposed to big interest rate moves, that a lot of the problems that we saw ultimately crash the bank could, someday crash the bank. And I think the question is, why didn't executives do anything about it? Was it that the Fed wasn't enforcing this aggressively enough? Was it that they just, completely dropped the ball and just refused? And I don't think we know the answer to those questions yet.
Well, is there any responsibility from the San Francisco Fed, from the Federal Reserve?
So let me answer the question in regards towards, we don't know who's responsible. Did they drop the ball? Were they being negligent? Listen, on yesterday's show, not on yesterday's show, but on Friday's show, in which me and Lauren were hosting, Janet Yellen, being confronted by the Senate, said certain banks have favoritism and are protected. So, in other words, it's a game of favoritism. Now, anyone that was relevant or in a position of power was able to get most of their money out of the Silicon Valley Bank. They were able to protect themselves. They were able to, make sure that they're okay, because guess what? They got Washington, D.C. looking after them. They have the politicians looking after them. Are you not angry? Because you should be. Are you not enraged yet? What is it going to take? Because they could have done this. This is the exact same thing that happened in 2008. We've seen this before. What you're seeing playing out right before you, you've seen this before. And how many times did these jagoff politicians tell you that everything's fine now? The system's okay. You don't need to worry. Don't panic. It's all good. How's that working out for us now?
At large, to warn people? Or is it just private communication between those entities and the bank saying you've got real issues here, you need to address them? Because from your reporting, my takeaway was, and this is a quote, the bank did not fix its vulnerabilities. But did anyone know? Any customers, any depositors know that?
I think this is going to be a huge area for inquiry going forward because traditionally the way it's done is that these issues are kept very private. Supervisory matters are kept really under strict lock and key. But I think there are a lot of questions about why weren't these issues escalated? Was it a failure at the San Francisco Fed? Was it a failure at the Federal Reserve's board in Washington? And, is there any sort of recourse in a world where something like this could just fly under the radar for more than a year and a half? And so I think that we don't know the answers to that. I think we're going to see a lot of pressure coming from Congress. And we're already seeing some of that to get answers and some sort of solution going forward.
Yeah, and if the bank doesn't act on these repeated warnings, is there a right to know for depositors? Richard, what do you think? Final.
Yeah, there is a right to know. People need to know. Because the thing is, the individuals, this is the biggest joke of them all. And sometimes, I laugh to myself when I hear people are talking about the economy saying, I can't believe this is happening again. Do you want to know why it's happening again? Because our supposed guardians let the individuals who caused the 2008 economic collapse to happen, they let them go. No one was ever held accountable. No one went to jail. Remember Barack Obama, hope and change? Change and hope. Yeah, turns out Obama told everyone we got to look forward. Just look forward, folks. Folks, we just got to look forward. And now they're doing it again. The bankers, the Wall Street executives, the hedge fund managers, private equity. What's it going to take for everyone to realize that our supposed watchdogs are just foxes in the henhouse? They don't care about us. They don't like you. They don't think about you. They don't respect you.
Final thought.
I think it's very difficult. You have a right to know, but at the same time, if you start promulgating notices that this or that bank is deficient in its regulatory schemes, I mean, all banks at some point in time have a problem in some nature.
Yeah, why do they keep on having the same problem, buddy? It's almost like we have an environment, a political and economic environment that encourages these people in positions of power, bankers, Wall Street executives, hedge fund managers, to do illegal stuff with people's money. And the thing is, people have a right to know, because not everyone is a multi-billionaire with friends in the Hamptons or have their good, Hollywood friends in Hollywood, hanging about. No, not everyone's like that, because the thing is, the average person, if they lose their life savings, that's it. They lose anything. Well, geez, who knows how they're going to get by? How many Americans got hurt in the last crash? How many people's savings were evaporated? When the Wall Street bets people, started doing the stonks with GameStop and AMC, and they were giving those private equity and Wall Street traders and hedge fund managers an ulcer and a headache. Somebody from the Wall Street Bets community, either it was in the Reddit or they're in their Discord, they wrote something very eloquent. And I truly felt sorry that they had to go through this. But more or less, this is the quote. And if it's not it fully, but this is pretty much in close to how it's going to be. I'm doing this because I saw what happened to my dad in 2008, how he lost everything, how our family became afflicted with poverty. I'm doing this to show those bastards right now that we're not going to take it anymore. And that person's not alone. Hey, let's have a show of hands. You could do a hand emoji or thumbs up emoji. But how many people do you know had their lives permanently changed after the 2008 economic collapse? You can include yourself too if you want. Again, if you don't want to participate, that's fine. But show of hands. How many people do you know where they lost everything? It's going to happen again. Yet you have this jagoff, this four-eyed jagoff saying, you can't, these banks do these things all the time. Well, gee, maybe we should take away the incentive for them doing it all the time.
How is the ordinary depositor to know what serious and what's not. And the one thing we've learned from SVB and the Signature is that today's bank run does not involve going and standing outside and knocking on the door. Today's bank run involves taking your phone out and taking your money somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that means it's faster, more brutal, and more destructive.
As Patrick McHenry said last week, the first Twitter-fueled bank run that we saw play out. Richard Quest in Tokyo. Thank you, Gina.
The reason why probably people are panicking is because, I don't know, they could lose everything. That's, it's reasonable. Before I pull up the next video, there's a couple things. I'm going to leave people's names anonymous, but there you go. One person wrote, I lost my home in 2008. Another person wrote, myself and many others. Another person wrote, I lost my job and 401k. Another person wrote, my brother went underwater. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. Wow. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened to all of you. I truly am. I'm sorry that happened to every single one of you. No one should go through this. El Sambai writes in Rockfin, we will do nothing and you will be happy. Yeah. Got one more video here to play. Hey, it's our friends from Fox Business asking if the government should let a bank crash. According to Varney here, no, you don't let a banking system crash. Here, let's listen to the compassionate people at Fox Business. Don't worry, folks. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse, folks. It's only going to get worse. Here, let's listen to compassion and kindness.
Let's suppose that things really go downhill in this current banking crisis, and we're in a situation somewhat similar to 2008. We're faced with a choice, bail them out or let them crash. What would Steve Forbes do?
What you try to do is make sure you don't get that kind of panic.
Okay.
But that
means...
means...
Getting there, we're right down to the line there. There's a crisis panic. Do we bail or do we let them crash?
No, you don't let a banking system crash.
Exactly.
And Britain showed it back in the 1860s when they invented a lender of last resort. So the innocent banks don't get crushed by the bad things the bad banks did.
So it will be the Federal Reserve, the lender of last resort?
Yes, the only one.
The United States Treasury?
Treasury can't do it. They can make, along with the Fed, make guarantees, but the Fed's got the...
Too big to fail. Da-da-da-da. Too big to fail. Da-da-da-da. Too big to fail. They're telling you it's too big to fail, so they'll step on you. Too big to fail, they'll step on you. Too big to fail, but they'll step on you. Too big to fail, but they'll step on all the beautiful, beautiful little people.
Discount window.
And if it comes to it, that's what we have to do?
Temporarily. What we didn't do after 2008 was we kept doing bad stuff after the crisis. You deal with the crisis and then step back, which the Fed did not do.
You know, I probably made a few enemies this morning when I came out and said, yeah, if you got to bail, you bail.
And who pays the bill? Hey, I'm pointing at you. That's right. I don't care if you're a conservative or a Republican, libertarian, Democrat, socialist, green, independent, a boomer, a Gen Xer, a millennial, or Gen Z. I'm pointing to you. Hey, hold on. Let's get rid of all Varney's face here. You're going to be paying it. You're going to be paying for the rich's mistake, for the rich people's mistake. You will. I know. I'm so sorry. Many of you are probably saying, but Kit, this can't happen again. Of course it can happen again. The people that caused the 2008 economic collapse, none of those people went to jail. No one was held accountable. And who incentivized these banks and Wall Street executives to be scumbags? All the Democratic and Republican presidential administrations. And we're going to start with good old Ronnie Boy Reagan, Bush Sr., good old Bill Clinton, getting rid of Glass-Steagall, Bush Jr., Barack Obama, Donald Trump, yes, it's true. He's responsible for this too. But there were like other people ahead of him. Oh, and hey, Joe, 3-0, 330. All of them are in on it. If you're not angry, you should be. If you're not furious, you should be. If you're not screaming from the rooftops, I don't know what to tell you, folks.